Hello, and welcome to Communicate to Lead, the podcast that empowers leaders and aspiring leaders to communicate with clarity and impact. I'm Kele Belton, CEO and successful entrepreneur, and your host for today. I'm here to equip you with all the essential tools and strategies to master effective communication and lead your team to success. As the founder and CEO of The Tailored Approach, my goal is to empower you to be the best leader you can be. So sit back, relax, and join me in today's episode as we dive into the art of communicating like a true leader.
Here's something that stopped me in my tracks last week. One of my executive coaching clients, a leader at a Fortune 50 company, asked me if I had heard of quiet cracking. I'll be honest, I had no idea what she was talking about. Fast forward to this week, and suddenly I'm seeing this term everywhere. Business Insider called it the latest buzzword to hit the workplace. Fortune just reported that, according to Gallup, disengaged employees, which includes those experiencing quiet cracking, are costing the world economy $8.9 trillion in lost productivity. Forbes is analyzing how AI might help solve it. But here's what I noticed as I dove deeper into this coverage. The business media is getting part of the story right, but they're missing something crucial about what this means specifically for women in the workplace. And that's what we're going to unpack today. Welcome back to Communicate to Lead. I'm Kele Belton, and today we're doing something a little different. Instead of our usual tactical advice, I want to take you behind the headlines and analyze what's really happening with this quiet cracking phenomenon that's dominating workplace conversations. The research from Talent LMS found that 54% of employees are experiencing some level of quiet cracking, with 1 in 5 reporting it frequently or constantly. So, what is it? Quiet cracking is the internal struggle of an employee who is deeply unhappy at work, but feels trapped and unable to leave. It's not a sudden event, but a slow, silent erosion of your morale, motivation, and mental health as you endure a negative work environment. As I read through the business media coverage, I realized there's a strategic blind spot in how this trend is being discussed, particularly when it comes to women and women leaders. By the end of our conversation today, you'll understand not just what quiet cracking is, but what the business media is getting wrong about it and why it's hitting women disproportionately hard, and most importantly, how to position yourself strategically as this trend reshapes the workplace landscape, whether you're in leadership now or aspiring to be. Let me start by walking you through what the major business publications are saying, because there's a pattern in their coverage that's worth analyzing. Fortune's coverage focused heavily on the economic impact, reporting that disengaged employees are costing the world economy a staggering $8.9 trillion in lost productivity. Business Insider has been tracking this as emblematic of bigger trends sweeping across corporate America, where companies are getting leaner, more efficient, and more hardcore about their operations. But here's what struck me. They are treating quiet cracking like it's a new phenomenon, when what they're really describing is the workplace finally having language for something that's been happening for years. Think of it like a hairline fracture in a building's foundation. It's invisible from the surface, but the structural damage is happening slowly, steadily, and silently until one day the integrity of the entire structure is at risk. That's what's happening to employees. The business consulting firms are defining it as the erosion of workplace satisfaction from within. But let's get more specific. Quiet cracking has 4 key characteristics. Number 1, internalized dissatisfaction. You put on a brave face, but internally you are demoralized. 2, a gradual decline. This isn't about having a bad week. It's a slow burn of accumulating frustrations. 3, feeling trapped. This is the core of it. You may stay due to financial insecurity, a tough job market, or a fear of the unknown. And 4, erosion of well-being. The prolonged stress leads to burnout, anxiety, and other health issues. Now, let me compare this to other workplace trends. We've had quiet quitting, where employees do the bare minimum. We've had coffee badging, where employees show up just long enough to swipe their badge. But quiet cracking is different. Quiet quitting is an intentional act of emotional detachment. Quiet cracking, on the other hand, is an unintentional crumbling of your spirit that happens to you over time, leading to increased absenteeism and a decline in creativity. Here's what the business media is getting right. They recognize this is widespread and costly. But here's what they're missing. They are analyzing this like it affects everyone equally, when the data shows it's disproportionately impacting women. And more importantly, they are treating it like it's a problem to solve rather than a signal about fundamentally broken workplace systems like toxic culture, lack of growth, and chronic under-recognition. The media loves to treat these trends like mysterious diseases. Remember the Great Resignation? They made it sound like it was a mass psychological crisis instead of a logical response to poor working conditions. They're doing the same thing now. My analysis, this isn't a mystery. It's the predictable outcome of organizations demanding more from employees while providing less. The fact that we now have a clinical sounding term for it doesn't make it new. It just makes it impossible to ignore. Here's where the business media coverage gets really frustrating. They are completely missing the gender dimension of this crisis. The leader who mentioned quiet cracking to me, she described feeling like she was performing competence while internally dissolving. She's hitting every metric, but feeling completely disconnected from her future at the company. And she's not alone. In the past month, women in my coaching practice keep using almost identical language. I feel like I'm dying inside, but my performance review says I'm thriving. Here's what the media is not connecting. The same broken systems that create quiet cracking are disproportionately burdening women. We are doing 60% more emotional labor than our male counterparts. We are the ones people come to when teams are struggling, projects are failing, or the organization needs someone to hold it together. My theory, based on what I'm observing, women are experiencing quiet cracking at higher rates because they are overused as organizational shock absorbers in times of crisis. And this happens at every level. The strategic implication is that this is not just an engagement problem. It's a retention crisis, specifically targeting your most reliable female performers. Let me give you a framework the business publications haven't offered. I call it the invisible load analysis, and it has 3 components that explain why women are cracking. Component number 1, the recognition gap. Employees experiencing quiet cracking are 152% more likely to feel undervalued. For women who are already less likely to have their contributions formally recognized, this is a double hit. The second component, the future disconnect. This is when you can handle today, but you can't envision a sustainable future. If you are carrying everyone's emotional labor, of course, you can't see a path forward. This ties directly to a lack of growth and development opportunities. Component number 3, energy economics. The cost of caring is depleting you faster than the rewards of contributing are refilling you. This is a direct result of poor work-life balance and a culture that takes more than it gives. What this means for you, if you recognize these patterns, you, my friend, are not failing. You are experiencing the logical outcome of broken systems. And the companies that figure this out first will have a massive competitive advantage. Now, let's step back and analyze what these trends are really telling us. Coffee badging is strategic compliance, which says, I'll meet your requirements, but I won't pretend it adds value. Quiet quitting is boundary setting. Something like, I'll do my job, but I won't subsidize your poor planning with my free time. And then lastly, quiet cracking is strategic endurance born from feeling trapped. I can't perform at this level without support, but I'm too uncertain about the job market to leave. Here's my prediction. We're moving toward what I call intentional employment, where the most talented people will only engage fully with organizations that demonstrate a clear, consistent, and fair value exchange. The business media frames these as employee problems, but they are organizational failures. Organizations are spending resources trying to force engagement instead of creating conditions that naturally generate it. For women, this creates both risk and opportunity. The risk is if your organization responds with more monitoring, you are in a culture that will continue to overuse and under-recognize you. The opportunity is this. Organizations that see these as signals will desperately need leaders who can create an authentic engagement. Your communication skills just became your most valuable asset. You're welcome. So here are some strategic questions to ask yourself. Is your organization treating these as employee problems or organizational signals? Are they increasing surveillance or increasing support? And lastly, are they demanding more engagement or creating better reasons to be engaged? The answers will tell you whether you are in a company positioned for the future or one that is stuck in the past. Let me take you deeper into the data that's driving these business media stories, because there are insights buried in the research that aren't making it into the headlines. The Talent LMS study found that 82% of employees feel secure in their current roles, but only 62% are confident about their future with the company. That 20-point gap is fascinating when you analyze it strategically, because it tells us something important. People feel like they can do their current job adequately, but they are deeply uncertain about whether this path leads anywhere meaningful or sustainable. And given the tough job market we're seeing, with layoffs across industries and a challenging hiring landscape, many people feel stuck even when they are unhappy. The Inc. analysis noted that quiet cracking sits somewhere between burnout, suffered by some ambitious but overloaded workers, and the quiet quitters who are actively slacking their way out of jobs they no longer want. But here's what they didn't analyze. This middle space is where high performers get trapped. You are too engaged to quit, too valuable to promote, and too exhausted to continue at this pace indefinitely. The deeper story is that, according to Gallup, employee engagement fell to its lowest level in over a decade in 2024, with only 31% of employees feeling engaged. This isn't a quiet cracking problem, my friend. This is an organizational crisis that quiet cracking is just making visible. Let me share what I'm tracking that the business media isn't connecting. Pattern 1, the competence trap. The research shows quiet cracking affects people who are good at their jobs. They are meeting metrics, hitting deadlines, but feeling disconnected from their future. This creates a vicious cycle where their competence makes them indispensable, but their indispensability makes them feel trapped. Pattern 2, the recognition paradox I keep seeing is the research shows people experiencing quiet cracking are 152% more likely to feel undervalued. But here's what I've noticed in my coaching practice. These are often the women who are getting the most informal recognition. They are getting the thanks for being there. Oh, I don't know what we would do without you. But the least formal recognition in terms of promotions, raises, or title changes. It's like being appreciated, but not being advanced. Pattern 3, the future disconnect I'm observing. Remember that statistic I mentioned earlier, 82% of people feeling secure in their jobs, but only 62% of them feeling confident about their future with the company? That 20-point gap tells a story. In my coaching conversations, I keep hearing women say things like, I can do my job fine, but I have no idea where this is leading. They are capable today, but can't see a sustainable path forward. And based on what I'm observing, this often happens in organizations where advancement criteria aren't clear or development opportunities are limited. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. If you recognize these patterns in your own experience, you are not experiencing personal career confusion. You are experiencing workplace problems that are bigger than you. The solution isn't to work harder or communicate better, even though those skills are valuable. The solution is to recognize these are organizational problems and plan accordingly, whether you are early in your career or already well established. Here are key questions for your career planning. Number 1, does your organization have clear, objective advancement criteria? 2, are the people getting promoted demonstrating the same contributions you are making? And lastly, number 3, When you ask about your career path, do you get specific timelines and metrics, or do you get vague encouragement? These aren't just personal career questions. They are ways to assess whether your organization is actually healthy. And the answers will help you determine whether you are dealing with temporary challenges or deeper workplace problems. Based on my analysis of these workplace trends and the business media coverage, here's what I believe women need to understand about positioning themselves strategically, whether you are in leadership now or building towards it. First, recognize this as a workplace problem, not a personal failing. When Forbes coverage acknowledges that people are becoming disengaged from work and perceiving their work as uninspiring at these rates, that's not individual weakness. That's broken systems, not broken people. This gives you permission to be strategic rather than self-critical. Second, understand that these trends create leadership opportunities. Organizations that figure out how to address quiet cracking rather than just monitoring it will need people who understand both the emotional and business sides of engagement. Your communication skills and emotional intelligence become incredible, valuable assets at any level of your career. Third, use this moment for strategic career positioning. Instead of just managing your own quiet cracking, position yourself as someone who can help solve it for the organization. Here's something you can say. I've been reading about the recent research on workplace disengagement like quiet cracking. Based on what I'm seeing in our team, I think there are some opportunities for us to get ahead of these issues rather than just reacting to them. Could we explore what it might look like to actually improve engagement at work? Second one, focusing on the future of work conversation. Become the person who understands these trends and where they are heading. Subscribe to the business publications covering these issues. Read the research. Bring insights to conversations at work. Position yourself as someone who sees what's coming next. Fourth, make strategic personal decisions based on organizational responses. Organizations to watch for, they are the ones I call the green flags. Let me give you 5 things to look for that indicate that you are in an organization that gets it. First, they treat these trends as signals about needed changes, not employee problems to fix. Second, they invest in understanding root causes rather than just treating symptoms. Third, they actually ask employees what would increase engagement rather than just demanding more engagement from people. Fourth, they recognize and address invisible labor, especially emotional labor that women often carry. And lastly, fifth, they provide clear advancement paths for people at all levels, not just vague promises about growth. Now, here are the red flags to watch out for. These are the warning signs that you are in an organization that is stuck in the past. They respond with increased monitoring or surveillance instead of addressing root causes. They blame employees for disengagement rather than examining their own systems. They implement policies that try to force engagement without addressing what's causing their disengagement in the first place. And they dismiss these trends as generational weakness or entitlement rather than taking them seriously. Now, I know this might feel like a lot of information to process, so feel free to come back to this again. But let me give you a concrete plan for how to actually use these insights. I'm going to walk you through a simple month-by-month approach to assess your current situation and position yourself strategically. Here's your action plan. In week 1 to 2, this is where you do some intelligence gathering. Monitor how your organization discusses these workplace trends. Notice whether the focus is on employee behavior or organizational systems. And then lastly, assess whether leadership seems curious or defensive about engagement challenges. And then in week 3 and 4, focus on smart positioning. Share relevant business coverage with your manager or team and add your thoughts. Position yourself as someone who understands both the trends and the potential solutions, and begin conversations about how to actually improve engagement. Month 2, here's the decision point. Based on organizational responses, determine whether you are in a forward-thinking culture or one stuck in outdated models. If you are in an organization that is stuck in the past, Begin strategic planning for your next career move. It might be time to jump ship if that's possible. Here's the key insight I want to leave you with. These workplace trends aren't temporary disruptions to return to normal. They are signals about permanent changes in what people expect from work. The women who understand this and position themselves accordingly will have significant advantages throughout their careers. So, as we wrap up this analysis, I want to leave you with my predictions for how these trends will evolve and what it means for your strategic positioning. Prediction 1, I think organizations will split into 2 camps. They will divide into 2 groups. One group will double down on control and monitoring. The other will invest in creating genuinely engaging work experiences. As Forrester noted, companies that zigged while the rest zagged in 2024 are seeing the highest employee satisfaction scores despite the general workplace climate. Prediction 2, the invisible labor conversation is getting louder. The conversation about emotional labor and invisible work that women are doing is finally getting some mainstream attention. Now, let's be realistic. Women have been dealing with this for decades, and real change typically happens very slowly. But here's what I think will be different. Some forward-thinking organizations will start formally recognizing this work, hopefully, especially as they struggle with retention. It won't be widespread, but it will create opportunities for women who can clearly articulate the business value of what they are already doing. The key is being able to translate this invisible work into language that organizations understand and value. And here's my final and third prediction, which I call the workplace relationship shift. The most talented people will increasingly view employment as a partnership rather than traditional employment. They'll expect clear benefits for what they give, growth opportunities, and meaningful work. Organizations that adapt will attract top talent. That's a given. Those that don't will continue experiencing engagement problems. Here's your career planning for the rest of 2025. Become the future of work voice in your organization. Position yourself as someone who understands these trends and can help your organization navigate them. This might mean leading engagement initiatives, contributing to team improvements, or helping your organization understand what really drives performance. Opportunities that exist at every career level. Document and communicate your value. Use the business media coverage to advocate for recognition of your contributions. When Forbes is writing about cost of disengagement, you can reference that research while demonstrating your role in maintaining engagement, regardless of your title. And then build your network. Connect with other women who are navigating these same challenges across all career levels. Share insights, strategies, and opportunities. The organizations that figure this out will need people who understand both the problems and the solutions. And that includes women at every stage of their career. And speaking of connecting with other women and women leaders, next week I'm going to be sharing something incredible that I've been working on behind the scenes. It's specifically designed for women who want to connect with others navigating these same workplace challenges. So make sure to tune in next Thursday because I think you are going to love what I share with you. Here's my challenge to you. This week, I encourage you to read one of these business articles about quiet cracking and share it with someone in your organization with your perspective. Don't just forward the article. Share your thoughts. Position yourself as someone who thinks ahead about workplace trends, not just someone who experiences them. And here's my bigger challenge, if you will. Stop waiting for organizations to solve these workplace problems and start positioning yourself as part of the solution. Your communication skills, your emotional intelligence, your ability to build authentic relationships. These are exactly what organizations need to address these engagement crises. Whether you are leading a team now or preparing to lead a team, these skills are your competitive advantage. The business media is finally catching up to what many of us have been experiencing for years. But rather than being affected by these workplace trends, we have the opportunity to become people who help shape the solutions. Your experience matters, your insights are valuable, and your ability to communicate and lead through these challenges is exactly what the future workplace needs. Thank you for joining me for this deeper dive into the trends shaping our workplaces. Next week, we'll get back to technical strategies, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this analysis. Share this episode with the women who are navigating these challenges as well, and let me know what trends you are seeing in your own organization. Until next Thursday, my friend, I am Kele, reminding you that great communication is the foundation of inspiring leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember to communicate to lead.